Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Welcome back to episode 8 of the Since I Was Young podcast. Joining you, as always, myself, Ewan, and Alan. And Alan has some breaking news just in. Alan, would you like to share this monumental news that has just happened right now?
Absolutely. So the time is 3:57 on Saturday afternoon, and Hibernian have just played in the Scottish Cup final versus St Johnstone. St Johnstone have won it 1-0.
Oh, fucking Roundy, you dirty, filthy bastards, honestly.
Now just to put it into context, this is the Hibs team that is seemingly the third best team in the country and ahead of everybody else by a country mile. St Johnstone absolutely bossed it. Never in doubt. Never in doubt.
Nah,
Love it.
I mean, obviously we'll be was it going back to hating them next year, but fair play to St Johnson. Like the season that they have had has been a a monumental season.
Oh,
To win more trophies than Rangers and Celtic put together, like that is absolutely unbelievable, man.
yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, we were speaking just before we came on here about just how organized they are, and they just seem to just be solid. Like, it's, and I said it like when they went 1-0 up, 'cause I watched, like, I had a few things on earlier on today, but I was kind of watching it, or it had it on in the background. And when they scored, when St Johnstone got the first goal, I was like, that's it, it's done. It's Hibs at Hampden. What do you expect? Hibs at Hampden.
True.
They don't, you know, apart from 5 years ago or whenever it was, when they two goals in the last 10 minutes against Rangers to win that one trophy that they've won in the last 120 odd years. They don't turn up. Hampden.
No,
It's a curse. It's a curse, and I love it.
me too. You
Anyway,
and me both are. But yes, our main topic, just after that beautiful news, it's going to be the final, and we promise it's going to be the final piece that we do on this championship season as such. As you know, if you watched the last episode, we did a season review, and for this very last topic on the championship, we're going to be doing a squad slash sort of a player review as such. Basically, what we've done for this one is that we've put it all into groups with all the players in, starting from A Ed plus all the way down to Group E. You can probably work out which one is the best and the worst group. And between Alan and myself, we've both made separate groups, and through each group that we go through, we're going to sort of talk about which players that we've put in that group and the reasons why. For all of you guys watching as well, we'll probably put a few posts on our Twitter account about this as well. So on that note, if you are a fan of the podcast, please think about subscribing and smash that like button if you do enjoy the video as well. We are Since I Was Young podcast. And if you want to get in touch with us, as always, we have a Twitter account that should be on screen for you, but the link will also be in the description, and also Alan's personal Twitter account and my YouTube channel, What Ewan's Doing. Okay, so just a few days ago, the club brought out a statement, the first statement that she's probably done all year. And Alan's got a few bits and bobs to take you through. We won't go through the entire statement because that would take all of the episode time. So we're just they're going to go through the main sort of talking points, and we'll go through those, and then we'll have a wee chat about it. So Alan, please, sir, you have the floor.
yeah, as you say, she put out this statement a few days ago, and it was a lengthy one. It took a while to go through it. But I mean, to be fair, I mean, before I sort of go into a few of the little bits about it, like, it was actually quite a positive statement. I kind of enjoyed it, which
Mm.
is, a lot of the news was stuff that we needed to hear and things that obviously we've been waiting to find out about. But yeah, I mean, often when there's a statement that pops up on the Hearts website, you think, oh God, what's she saying now? Or oh God, who's talking now? But it was actually quite well put together. So yeah, just a couple of the things. The first thing that I noticed and I messaged you about as well was that there's been a bit of sort of boardroom movement. James Anderson, who everybody knows as the saviour of Scottish football during COVID times, with the money he's pumped into it. Yes, exactly. He's been appointed to the board as a non-executive director. Now, I'm not entirely sure what that means.
I was about to ask you, because you're the smarter one of us two, mate. Do you have any idea what that means, or?
It just means that he can get his checkbook out, I imagine.
Good lad. That's all we need.
Yeah, so she basically said the value of his business acumen and experience cannot be overstated. So obviously, he's James Anderson's a philanthropist these days and sort of gives his money to charities and worthy causes and stuff. But he's actually got a very good business background, so it's a decent person to have behind the scenes at Hearts if that's the way things are going to go.
Yeah, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, equally, the CEO that was appointed this year, I want to say, maybe end of last year, Andrew Mckinley, the one that was appointed as Budgie's right-hand man, and then we've not really heard anything from him at all since then. I think he's just been carrying Anne Budgie's handbag around for her. But he's apparently stepped up and he's now running the club on a day-to-day basis, which is positive as well for people that want Anne Budge to step aside. It sounds as if the wheels are sort of in motion for that. She went on to say in the statement that she's just going to focus more on her role as the chairperson of the club, which I think, if I remember rightly, will be the way that it is when the Foundation of Hearts take over. I think Anne Budge is still going to be either the chairwoman or a representative on the board of some sort. So it's nice to see that they're putting wheels in motion and plans together to start that. I think that, again, it gives, because there's obviously a section of Hearts supporters that don't want Anne Budge to be at the club anymore, and maybe it appeases them a little bit to say, well, look, they're making plans to do that. So it's good. And I think, had COVID not happened, the handover may well have happened already by now. So
possibly, yeah.
We'll see how that goes. And other sort of backroom news, Joe Savage, the head of recruitment, is currently restructuring the scouting system and all the sort of recruitment things that we're doing, which I think is long overdue, to be honest. He's bringing in more sort of analysts. I know that's a difficult one. Yeah, he's bringing in more analysts to the club to sort of take a bit more of a stats-based approach to signing players rather than just watching them on a video, which might be quite good.
Yeah.
I know that's the way a lot of clubs are doing their recruitment now, and that's how you can maybe find a wee gem somewhere that nobody
possibly, yeah.
knows about. So it's good to see that that's happening, because God knows we need better recruitment than we've had over the last few years anyway.
Uh-huh.
If they take a more detailed approach to it rather than just signing any 30 plus player that's not got a club, then that would be a positive. The other thing that was quite interesting was that she spoke about season tickets. Obviously, lots to talk about. A lot of clubs in Scotland have already launched their season tickets programs for next year. Did you see Motherwell? They're giving them for free. The supporters.
What? That? Yeah. Wow.
Wow. They're subsidising the cost. I mean, obviously, a club like Hearts couldn't do that because we have considerably more season ticket holders than Motherwell. So basically, as like a goodwill, gesture, the fans that have had season tickets last year are getting them either free or discounted or subsidised for this season, which I think is an amazing gesture.
Absolutely, yeah.
Motherwell seem to be a nice little community club, and they seem to kind of look after that really well. So, but no, anyway, back to what I was saying about Anne Budge. She put in the statement. She basically said that they're delaying the season ticket announcement because they're waiting for more clarity on when fans could be allowed back into the stadium.
Mm.
Then they'll obviously be able to know what they can offer and what they can promise and all that sort of stuff. So she did say to look out for it. I think it was, let me see.
I think it was the last week in May, if I remember rightly. Was that right?
That's right, because it was the same. It was around the same time as the sponsor stuff that she was talking about as well. On that, actually, that's one of the other points that I had. She spoke about a new shirt sponsor for Hearts for next season. There was a lot of rumours doing the rounds about it might have been the motor neuron disease charity for the Scottish motor neuron disease, obviously for a nod to the late Zaliukas. But reading the statement back, it says it's a commercial sponsor. So that would hint that it's not going to be a charity. Lots of rumors, and you always see on social medias and stuff like fake like concept kits and stuff that fans do. I know you're a big fan of those, and so am I, to be fair. I've seen a lot of them floating about with the blue and black candy stripe with Strongbow on it, for an away kit sort of thing, and going back retro sort of style. But I think, if I'm not wrong, maybe yourself or somebody can correct me, but I think there's a ban on alcohol brands being on football shirts in Scotland. I think, because I know Celtic and Rangers had tenants before, but I seem to think that there's some sort of rule that they're not allowed to advertise.
That's a very good question. Now that you've kind of said it, I don't think there's now a single football team that has an alcohol sort of sponsor on their shirt. That's
I don't
incredibly strange. Yeah.
I can't remember when that came in, but I seem to remember there was something. But gambling companies and all that are absolutely.
Don't even get me started on that. Like any was it at the club that has got any sort of was it at, like, was it at the gambling, was it sponsor? That is a massive turn off for me, like, because the Premier League down south is full of them, and it's horrible.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? But I mean, one's just as much of an addiction as the other, so I don't understand why alcohol is not allowed and gambling is. But yeah, she said that the fans will be, I think it was, I'm not sure what the wording was, but she basically said that it's a good deal for the club, and she basically said they've worked hard to make it happen. So I think it would have been a nice touch to do like a motor neuron disease Scotland charity thing, and they may well do that. They may well have some sort of link up with them, but in a strange way, I quite like the Save the Children sponsor on the shirt. I thought it was quite a nice fit, and it just seemed to work quite well, and obviously it stood for something. So seeing them not on the shirt next season will be difficult. I would say, you know how you see some football shirts where they have like a sponsor on the back or like at the bottom of it. I wouldn't mind a wee something like that maybe for next season, just to have them on there, because I think it is a massive cause, and we'll see how it goes. But I mean, there's one way to get fans excited and get fans spending their money. It's by making a kit that looks absolutely amazing. So
couldn't agree
more.
Yeah,
hopefully that'll be launched sooner rather than later. I would imagine they'll probably put season tickets and the kits out at the same time to try and milk as much money out of fans as they can, which entirely reasonable. And just the last point that, as I say, there was a lot of stuff in the statement. The last point that I want to pick out, she said about players. She's basically thanked them for the season, getting the promotion. She then went on to say that players have been offered contracts, and those that haven't will be leaving the club, and do so with her thanks, etc. So I would read that into, now I said this to you, I can't remember if it was the last one or the one before of these that we did, but I said if I was at the club, I'd be putting a timeline on the Andy Irving situation.
Yeah,
and saying if
100%.
You've not signed it by this date, then it's off the table and you can go. That sounds like that's what's happened, because Anne Budge saying we thank them for their contribution and wish them well with their futures. It's a case of, well, we made you an offer, you didn't want to take it, so we're pulling it out from you, and that's fair enough. But anyway, Andy Irving will be missed, but it's you can't.
It is what it is, mate.
You can't wait around for these things.
No.
And that pretty much sums up the statement. She also said that the cup exits were utterly disappointing.
No shit, Hen.
I was like, that's putting it lightly, but utterly disappointing. Very diplomatic as always.
Indeed, Alan, indeed. Well, thank you very much for that the bit of news there. And just to point on that, and if you are after a sponsor, and a good sponsor at that, Hen, please just no hinting whatsoever there, Hen, but just
Yeah, I mean,
keep that in mind.
That's a classy thing. That's a classy kit sponsor, that.
It's all right. Well, I mean, as long as it's not that sponsor you've got on your shirt right now, mate, like that, out of all the shirts that we've had since I was started, was it at the going to the Hearts games, that one, hated it, absolutely hated it. Like, look at it, it's
I know, it is a bit much, isn't it? It is a bit much. Yeah, but I like the kit, but yeah, it
Aye,
kind of if they made it, if they made it maroon or if they made it white with maroon writing.
I wouldn't have minded it that much. No, like I wouldn't have minded it, but it's
Yeah,
just the fact it's just at wonga.com. Like, nah, mate,
yeah.
I think I'm all right. But aye, so we'll go and we'll move on to our main topic for the squad slash player review. So just to recap, we're gonna work our way from do we want to work from A plus, like sort of down, or from E upwards?
Yeah.
I mean,
I've got
yeah.
A plus, A, B, C, D, and then I've just went to F. E was just
F.
redundant
Oh,
for me.
harsh. Well, but tell you what,
Yeah.
I'll change my E into an F then, just so we're both on the same page. I mean, we could probably even start from A, because then most Hearts fans know who, like, was it played well, so it won't be as much of a surprise. So if you're cool with going from A at the plus all the way down to F, we can do that, yeah.
That works for me, mate. That works for me.
Sounds good. So like I said at the start, we both made lists of our own because we thought doing at the combined one would take a decade to actually do. So we're just gonna explain our was it at the points for the players that we put into the certain the groups, and we'll go from there. So starting at the A at the plus, I'm very aware that you, Alan, you put two players in there. I only put in one. I only put in one,
Okay.
which you can probably guess who it was, considering the review that we did last year. So yeah, I've only put in Craig the Gordon. My literal only was the reason for that, again, much like last week. Again, obviously I know that a goal led the keeper and an outfield player like his twos totally was a separate things, but you can't say that Gordon has mainly put a foot wrong. I don't think he's made. I mean, literally just off the top of my head, like, I might be wrong, but I don't think he's made like a mistake. I don't think he's been like he's had any particular bad games as such. I just think it's been more on the actual day itself. I just think it's been mainly the team that's been out in front of him. And the only reason that I've put was it the boys into the A group is, again, it was the same thing that I said last week. I think some of the more easier chances that he had, they could have taken. He could have got himself 20 goals. Was it the plus easy? If he had put those chances like away, if he had scored about 20 plus, for me personally, he would have probably been in the same sort of the group as well. But that is the only reason that I've put the boys down, just the one group. Other than that, he has had a really good season. So, like, you know what I mean? That's the only reason.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, my A plus, because I sent it to you last night or whenever it was. But yeah, I've got the two players, and they're the two that you've mentioned for exactly the same reasons. Gordon, because he's been player of the season. We did speak about it in the last episode, and I put a poll up on Twitter because obviously my player of the season was Liam Boyce and yours was Craig Gordon. I put a poll on Twitter, and Craig Gordon won it by 65%. So it was actually a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be
True, but
honest. It was
yeah.
large. Yeah, at the start of it, Craig Gordon was running away with it by about, I think it was like 80%, 20%, but then more people voted than Boise. So it wasn't me on multiple accounts. I'll put it that way. But,
That's what I was about to actually say. Who just said boys, just on every.
but aye. So I mean, I'm not going to go into too much detail on these two because we don't really need to. But
Yeah.
Gordon, player of the season, Boyce top goal scorer for me. Both deserve to be in the A plus tier for me. And yeah, but both
Fair,
good.
fair dues, Alan. Fair dues. So, but yeah, for the A group again, I've only actually put was it the boys in there. So, you can go through your A group for this one.
Right. So I've gone with John Suter. Now, the only reason that I put it like this is, now a lot of my selections as we go on, I've done it based on like the number of games that they've played and how they've played in those games.
Mm-hmm.
Suter for me, obviously not played that many games. They come back from injury and all that, but in every game that he played, he looked like he'd never been away. And that, I mean, if he'd played twice as many games as he has or had at the end of the season, he might have even been an A+ for me.
Mm.
But he didn't play that many games, but when he played, he looked good. And obviously, when he came back, we changed the system, and that was influential to the end of the season run that we went on. He's just looked comfortable, and for me, Suter is in the A tier for me. He just had a very, very good end to the season, and look forward to hopefully having him fit for pre-season. Part of me is delighted that he's not made it into the Euro squad, even if
Yeah.
he might have had a shout for it if he'd played more games. But pleased that he gets the summer off to rest and then come back in pre-season and hopefully put the injuries behind him and be the Suter that we know that he can be, because he's on his day top class.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Alan, and I could not agree more. I mean, as we go into the next group, which is the B group, I will to carry on that because I've actually put Suter in that group. Obviously, like, you know, for the same the reasons as you, I would have probably put him up a group or in the top group if he had played. Was it the games? But I think it's just to be fair. Like, I mean, yeah, in the 5 games that he's played, like, he's played outstanding. But at the same time, you can't, from my sort of at the point of view, you can't really define someone's whole campaign on just 5, like, you know, games out of 28. But he's played, in terms of how well that he's played throughout those 5 games, he's probably played better than some of the players that played all through the campaign. But you know, that's why I didn't put him up in to the A group, because I thought it would be a bit not wrong to actually do it, but I think it would be a bit unfair for him to just kind of just like, you know, go through everybody in the groups. So yeah, that's why I put him in my the B group. I've got another 2 in my the B group, and it is our 2 fullbacks, both Smith and the Kingsley. Again, I think the only main reason that I put these 2 into my the B group is that they've played well. I don't think they've been outstanding, but a word that, like, you know, we like to use a lot. They've both been consistent throughout the whole the campaign. Obviously, throughout the end there, the Kingsley got injured, which was a bit unfortunate. But up until that point, I thought, I mean, there is an argument to say that maybe Kingsley actually performed slightly better than Smith, in a sense that, you know, if you give Smith a job to actually do, like, you'll do it 100%. If you say the same to Kingsley, I think he'll do the job, but he'll maybe go and do a tiny bit more, if that makes sense, because obviously the Kingsley is a lot younger than Smith at this moment in time. But yeah, I think why I put them in this group is just, like I said, they've both been really consistent, not done a lot wrong throughout the campaign. So yeah, that is my B group. So have you got any more? Was it at the players in your? Was it at the B group, Alan?
So in mine, I have as well put Kingsley and Smith both in the B group as well. Again, for pretty much the same reasons that you said. The only thing I'll say about Kingsley and Smith that I noticed, because I was reading up on it last night, so I couldn't quite remember when it happened, but they both signed contract extensions in January.
All right.
I think Kingsley had a very good first half of the season at Hearts. I thought he was very, very good, and he did the job he was asked to do. And then I remember reading a story about him saying that he'd be happy to stay at Hearts, but he wasn't going to speak about a contract. So there was part of me that was thinking, is he playing to get a move back down south again? Is he playing for us to then maybe go at the end of the season and because he was only signed on a 1-year deal at the start of the season. So there was kind of a part of me that was like, is he playing this way so that he can impress other teams and then he'll go? You know, is he committed to staying? But then obviously in January signed a new contract at Hearts because maybe there wasn't the interest that he thought there might have been.
Maybe.
And yeah, I just think when he signed his new contract, and I'll say the same about Smith, I think they both signed in January. I think it was the first or second week of January. And they both just seemed to kind of slow down a little bit after that.
A little bit, yeah.
And then obviously, like you say, Kingsley got his injury and sort of faded out the team. But yeah, no, I mean, both solid players, and I'd be happy. I mean, I hope that we play the 3 at the back system in the Premier League. But if Robbie does want to go back to a 4, I'd be happy with Kingsley and Smith as the fullbacks every day of the week, to be honest. Plus the ever improving Andy Halliday as competition for Kingsley at left back is a positive as well.
Definitely.
The other 2 players I've got in my B group, so I had 4 in there. I had Kingsley and Smith, and I also had Peter Haring and Andy Irving. Now, I don't think they've been fantastic, to be honest, the pair of them, but Andy Irving, I think, was the league's top assister, certainly the team's top assister at Hearts. He got 8 assists in the league. So that made him the top of the tree, which I think kind of goes unnoticed a little bit. So I kind of put him up there based off stats. I don't think he had a brilliant season, but you know, with numbers like that, can't really put him any higher or lower. Peter Haring, Peter Haring for me, it's similar with John Souttar. Obviously, Peter Haring didn't play as many games as the others in the team, but when he came back into that midfield, it took him a bit of time to get going, and he did, but that's understandable. You know, with his injury that he had and the time he's had over the last year and a half, it's been horrific for him. But when he started to tick over and he started to find his feet, it was just like, yeah, that's a Premiership Peter Haring playing in the Championship. I do think he needs to improve for next season though, and he'll be into the last year of his contract next season, so I think we might see a better Peter Haring next season, providing he stays fit, because we either want to get a new contract at Hearts or maybe be looking elsewhere. So, but no, I put them both in there for that reason.
Fair dues, Alan. Fair dues. We will talk about Andy Irving later on, definitely, because there might be a wee bit of a controversy in that respect for my groups. We'll move on to the next group, the C group. I've only got 3 players in there, and it is Haring, Halliday, and Mckinley. I mean, from maybe the C group upwards, I think that's the more sort of the more sort of was it at the better, was it at the players that have actually done quite well in that respect. I think I've got for Haring, I think again, like you just said, when he came back, it took him a few games to kind of get back onto his feet. Obviously at the start, you know, he wasn't was it at the playing as half as good as he was, especially throughout last season as well. And then he gradually got more sort of confident, and then you saw during the Alloa game, you know, he played out of his skin. Nobody could touch him at all. You know, he looked, was it comfortable, confident, like you just said there as well. But I don't think it's shown throughout the games that he has played. I think in my perspective, I think it's kind of the games that he's played half great, and then the other half he's played being a bit questionable. And I'm going to say the same for Halliday and Mckay as well, because for Mckay, I think it's pretty much the exact same. I think when he came in January, you know, it took him a few games to kind of find his sort of role as such. And then, like you said there, when we reverted to the 5 at the back, you know, that tended to suit him quite well, both him and Haring as well. And again, just to mention the Alloa game as well, he played fantastic, and he's played he played quite well throughout till the end of the season as well. My reasons for Andy Halliday, obviously, like I've bigged him up throughout the entire was it at the podcast. One thing that I will say about Halliday is that even right, and this is me not trying to blow smoke up his arse, but and some fans might not agree, but I think Halliday's been the kind of player where whenever he's not had a great game, you still see him trying. Like, you know what I mean? You don't see him tend to was it a slow down in the game? He's still mainly trying to get after the ball. He's still trying to help out his teammates as well. So from that perspective, like I think he improved a lot more when he reverted to the left wing back. Absolutely, and like you said, if Robbie wants to keep that, fantastic. If not, it kind of puts into question whether or not where he will put Andy as such. Where if he'll kind of was moving back into the center of the park or have a bit more of a sort of holding mid role like such. But yeah, those were the main reasons why I had those three in my group. Who did you have in yours, sir?
No worries. You had Halliday, McKenna, and Haring, yeah?
I did indeed, yeah.
Right. So I had Halliday and McKenna as well
Mm-hmm.
for virtually the same reasons that you said. I like we always joke about obviously your thoughts on Andy Halliday and my thoughts on Andy Halliday, but I'll openly admit that he actually, when he went back into that left fullback, he looked good. It suited him, I think, a lot more than playing in the middle because he seemed to, whenever he was playing in the middle of the park, he seemed to like get caught out. Like maybe I don't know,
Yeah.
get caught on the ball, or someone like an opposition player would come in and nick it off him, and he'd make like a typical trademark Andy Halliday bad tackle or just like kick out at them, Because I mean, he looked a lot better at left back when we switched to that. McKenna, for me, I'm a fan of McKenna. He suffered for me because Robbie played him out wide for a large number of games.
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, it didn't work. And then it wasn't until he was put in the middle next to Peter Haring or whoever else he was paired with that he started looking like a player. I think, again, pre-season for a lot of the players in the team that are going to stay, pre-season's got to be massive. They've got to be fit and ready to go for next season. And I think McKenna falls into that as well. So yeah, I had Halliday and McKenna in there. I had, let me see, 1, 2, 3. I had 3 other players. Now I've made a last minute change that because I did originally have more than that, but I've made a last minute change
right.
Just because I've looked at it now and thought, he should be lower. My other players in the C category, Jamie Walker. Now, Jamie Walker is possibly one of the most frustrating players at Hearts for me, in the sense that he should, in the Championship, he should have stood up as a Premier League quality player.
Oh, 100%.
He's got the experience and he's been there before. And he's a Hearts lad, For me, you talk a lot about when he came off the bench and he made an impact and he scored goals when we needed him to, and he did. Like he scored some important goals that won us games. He got 8 goals and 5 assists, which is impressive.
It's all right, making you.
But I just felt like when he started games, he just wasn't impacting them enough. And I don't know whether it was a system thing. I don't know if it was a Robbie Nielsen tactical thing. I'm not sure. But he just very rarely, when he started a game, you were like, right, Jamie Walker's going to do something. It was when he came off the bench, it was, right, Jamie Walker's coming on. He's going to do something. And I think that for me is why he's in C. He could have been higher if he started more games and had a bit more of an impact. But yeah, I just, in the season in the Championship, you kind of want your best players to stand up and go, I'm not a Championship player, I'm a Premier League player.
Yeah.
I'm going to show the league why I'm a Premier League player. And Jamie Walker should have been in that bracket, but he wasn't. For me, just didn't do enough consistently. And so that's why he's in C for me. I also put Nanduli in C. Now, I was debating this one with myself. I was considering putting him in the D category. I was kind of flip-flopping between the two. There's no doubt that Nanduli made an impact in terms of what he brings and his physical presence, and he's like a beanpole Uche. Like he's not a tank, but do you know what I'm saying, right?
I do get you.
Right? He can occupy people. He gives defenders a different challenge, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
He came in halfway through a season, not fit. He was released by his previous club in Turkey, I think it was. So it took him a while to get going. It took him a while to get up to speed, and you could see it. You could see it. And Robbie even said it. You know, he's not fully fit and ready to go yet. But when he is ready to go, there's a player. But he still did very well.
He did,
considering that the team at that point when he came in, and I think he even made a comment. I think maybe in the Evening News or something. He made an interview where he said, "To get the best out of me, the team needs to cross more. You know, they need to get more balls in the box." And that goes without saying. But I don't think we had enough of that for him to be that, you know, big impact player. Like he did well, but wasn't top class. But again, I'm going to keep saying it with lots of players. 2-season fitness, be ready to go at the start of next season. He's a bloody handful. I'm not saying he should start in the Premier League next season, but if we need to change the system and we need to go more direct against teams, you could go a lot worse than putting a 6'5" striker on the pitch up front and telling Craig Gordon just lump it at him.
Not at all, mate.
Fans might not like seeing it. They might like wanting to see Hearts play like Barcelona next season. But if you need to go long to a big target man up front, do it. And he's the man for that.
He's there, exactly.
Yeah, he's in the C category for me, as is Josh Gianelli. Now, similarly to John Suter, I'll tell you why, right? Similarly to John Suter, Josh Gianelli, for me, Gino Gianelli, is a winger that's a winger. I know that sounds a bit daft to say it that way, but he's pacey, he's direct, he runs at people.
He's fucking massive, I know.
That's what I'm saying. He's not like a little weedy type of winger. This is the thing. He's not like I look at wingers we've had before. You look at like a Sam Nicholson, a David Templeton, a Suso. I mean, Suso was a wee bit of a tank, actually, to be fair. Even like a Mikalunas or a Chesnowski. They were sort of little weedy players that could have been blown over by a gust of wind. But Gianelli, there's something about him. And
100%.
It's similar in what I said about Suter, that I ranked Josh Genelli in terms of the number of games that he played and the impact that he had before the injury, obviously. But he's a winger, and I'm like, yes, there's a player that at a packed Tynecastle, providing we can get him signed up, which please just do it. Just sign the contract. Just somebody give the lad a pen. Somebody give him a pen and just get him to sit down and tell him he's not allowed to leave until he signs the bloody contract, because it's got to be done. Got to be done. And yeah, like I rate him very highly, and saying that he didn't actually play that many games, it's that sort of player that you want a packed Tynecastle to get excited about when he gets the ball. And when he was fit and when he was playing, did very well. Had a few knocks and a few injuries, came back from them, and then obviously got finished off with the I think it was a cruciate injury that he got. But it's a small sample size of games, but I was impressed with what I saw, and that's why he is in that bracket for me.
Fair enough. I mean, going on to the next group, I agree with everything you said about him. However, there was one point that he actually made which kind of made me put him in the D group, which was because of his injuries. Now, I will agree 100%. When he's fit, he's a player that you want to have in your team. Like, you know, he is a player that the fullbacks will be fucking shit scared of, because like we said, he's quick, he's massive. You know, nobody will touch him. But going on to the next group, which is D, I've actually got 9 players in there. I won't go into detail through every single one, but like, you know, so Like I just said, just based on the injuries and the fact that he didn't play a lot of games. However, he did show was it had glimpses of how good he can be. For that, Genelli went in that group for me. The other players that went in was Jamie Walker, again, because he's not really started, but again, when he has started, he's not been as good as when he's that came on as a sub. So in that respect, that's why he's went in that group for me. Naismith, it's pretty self-explanatory. Again, like, he's what, 35, 36. It's still to be announced whether or not he will play like one last season or not for the next the campaign. And we've said it as well. If he does stay for one more year, great. If he wants to retire, fine. That's absolutely fine, because he's not going to make a massive difference in terms of how we play on the park. In terms of like a was it at the presence and a vibe, yeah, it might change that slightly, but in terms of how we play technically as a team, it won't change that much. So either way, but he's not played that much. I mean, he scored a fair few at the goals as well. I'm pretty sure that if I'm right in saying he's scored a hat trick as well at some point as well. So he's done all right in that respect. Nan, I've put him in the D group as well again. On games that he's like, he has looked pretty, was it decent, but at the same time, for me, he's not done enough in the sense that he's not had the performances where, like, was it at the granted he's had, was it at the good games, but there's not a game that he's played yet where I think, oh, he'll be a bloody good striker. Now, at the same time, I don't think he's shown enough to be in the slightly higher. Was it at the groups yet? Whether or not he'll be, a main factor in the squad next season, my gut tells me that he might not be. He might not be like, a main strike force for the boys, but again, we'll just have to wait and see. Henderson, I put in that group again. He's improved, I think, as the season has went on. However, I don't think he's improved massively. I think there's still a long way to go for him. I do think that he's a good prospect to have. However, he's still 19. So again, that's the kind of be expected. But I think he has made some improvements in that aspect, though. He's scored a few the goals. He's made a few assists as well. So I think he's probably a work in progress for a season or two. So again, that's why he's in my group. Gary Mckay-Stevens, I put in that group as well. Again, you can't really rectify a campaign. I mean, yeah, granted, like, he's only played for half a season, but I mean, is that right? But because he came in January, didn't he?
He played, yes, he came in January.
Aye, right. So in that sense, to have only 2 games to show what you can do, take for example, both Smith and the Kingsley, fair enough, they might have not played amazingly throughout that time, but they were consistent and they didn't make a lot of mistakes. Whereas, it's taken him 18 odd dead games to have 2 brilliant games. It's not enough for me to say that he's had a great season, which he's not. Like, I'll was it to put it out there. And again, if he plays anything like he did for the last 2 games of the season, by all means, get him in the team. But if it's going to be inconsistencies throughout next year, then that's probably something to be questioned about. But again, like, it's just more a case of just the waiting to actually see. 2 players that I put in there at this, and they actually left at the start of the season, but it was both Craig the Wigton and Ollie Lee. Like, again, Lee, I mean, there's not really much to say about him. Like, you know, I mean, I didn't really want to put him in the F group because, like, you know, because he's not like a bad was it a player at all. Like, you know, when he played the few games that he did at the start of the season, again, he didn't do a lot wrong. But through sort of family sort of circumstances, like, you know, was it led him back down to his home, which is absolutely understandable. Craig, was it at the Wigton? It's it's strange because I kind of felt that he kind of didn't get a real chance at Hearts, like, you know what I mean? Because when he came from Dundee, you know, he wasn't really talked about. He was more of a project, like, you know, as such. And in the pre-season for the season that's just passed there, like, you know, you saw him like he beefed up like to fuck.
Yeah.
And he did start to show a bit of confidence in there. But you know, I guess Robbie didn't really fancy him. I mean, I did fancy him, but I didn't, like, you know, at the same time. And but you know, he's done well, as far as I'm aware. He's done pretty well for Dunfermline like as well. So, you know, if he keeps on at it, like, you know, he'll probably get a move at some point back up to the Premiership as well. So that's why he's in my group. And lastly, this is going to be a controversial one for you, Andy Irving. Now,
Okay.
I know it's very, like, I didn't know it, but when you brought up the stat about his like sis, I thought, like, I genuinely thought at first, I thought, oh, for fuck's sake, right? Okay, that is just, like, you know, was it Ed? This is it. They're going to be hard to like explain, and it's probably my own sort of perspective on it and my own like sort of thoughts about it. Now, throughout the first half of the season, like, yeah, it looked absolutely great. Like, you know, didn't really put a foot wrong. And then obviously when it came to the second half of the campaign, that was probably around the time that we did offer him a contract, but he knocked it back. And then throughout the remainder of the campaign, he didn't play that much.
Yeah.
And I think that's where my kind of annoyance kind of lies. Like, you know, because you said there, because that's been dragged out for far too long. And I was, and yeah, it might like have been him trying to get trying to get like a better move. Who knows? It might have been his agent, like, as well, which you've, like, you know, was it at the, like, you know, was it mentioned in the last episode as well. But every time I watched him, there was just that kind of vibe about him, just like thinking, see if it is you that's just trying to get like a better move. In the same sense that Hearts have taken him through the ranks, and you know, they've done quite good. Like, sort of was it at the biome as well in terms of how he can, was it at the play now. I, it is probably just me, but to me there was almost maybe a bit of arrogance about him. Like, I don't know, like I don't know. I mean, that's just my own take on it. You know, I
Fair
think
enough.
when
Fair enough.
like, you know, I think when the club showed him a bit of was it the confidence in him. And now this is just all based off if it actually is him that just wants a move and thinks that he can do slightly better. If if that is what it is, then that's kind of where and why I've put him in that, was it at the group. But 9 times out of 10, it's probably just me, was it talking shite. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's why I kind of, was it had to put him in there. I mean, Andy Irving is not, for me, he's not going to be a player that I'm going to miss as such. Like, you know.
No, I think for me, Andy Irvin, the reason he was higher is just because of the impact that he had on the park in that first half of the season, like you say. But when we changed the system and when Peter Haring came back into the midfield and he was playing next to McKenna, now I think I said it to you a couple of weeks ago that the McKenna and Haring partnership to me if they're both fully fit and ready to go, that looks like a Premiership midfield partnership.
I agree. Yeah.
And like you say, we haven't missed Andy Irving when he's not been playing. I don't. I mean, I can totally understand why you put him in that group. I mean, there's lots of different things. I like Andy Irving because I think it's the connection of having a young player that came through the ranks and going right, because you warm to them more, and I think that's why equally, like, that's why everybody seems to be annoyed that Harry Cochrane's not been kept on, because he's a Hearts lad, all that sort of stuff. But the club offered Andy Irving a contract. It's not as if they've sat and done nothing.
No.
They've tried. They've offered him a contract, and whether Andy Irving or his representatives think that he should be getting more money compared to some of the other players in the Hearts team, maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's looked at the contract and went, I'm the top assist in the team, I'm the top assist at the club, I should be earning more. But he's still a young lad. He's not on a par with, I mean, off the top of my head, the top earners at Hearts have got to be probably Gordon, Boyce, probably Mckay Stephen will be on a decent chunk of change as well. And you look at the experience that they've got, that's why they get paid the money that they will. Obviously, it's not going to be massive sums of money, but for Hearts, it'll be, they'll be at the top end of it.
Absolutely.
And Andy Irving has not done enough to justify that. I love the nickname, the Porty Pirlo, and Porty Pirlo. It's great. It's great, and the fans obviously christened them that. But yeah, like you say, I won't miss them, and I feel like it's a really difficult one, because with Andy Irving, his next move, wherever it is going to be, will be the making of him, I think. Yeah. And I hope he doesn't turn into one of these young, promising Scottish midfielders that just disappears to, lower levels of English football obscurity. And I don't want that. I want him to, if he's going to move, which it seems he will, I want it to be the right one. And I want Andy Irving to go on and do well, because then we can go, look at him. He used to play for Hearts. But yeah, I understand your point. So just tell me again, who did you have in the D? Just tell me the names again, and I'll see who I had similar.
No worries, mate. So we got Andy Irvine, Jamie Walker, Naismith, Nanduli, Henderson, the Gary Mckay Stevens, Craig Wigton, Josh Gianelli, and Ollie Lee.
Right. So I'll run through the names. I had Henderson in there. He was originally in C, but he's the last minute change. I moved him down just because, didn't do it consistently enough. Certainly took his chances and did well, but more to come from him next season, hopefully.
Definitely, yeah.
Whiting for me was there just purely for the goal against Hibs, to be honest, in the cup.
And that scream as well, like like that high pitched ball grabbing scream. It was great.
I think with Whiting, for me, that it's funny because, like, you made the point about him in pre-season, and I looked at him, and obviously we weren't doing this at the start of the season, but I think I maybe told you about Whiting at the start of the season. I actually tipped him to be like this to be his breakthrough season for Hearts.
Absolutely, yeah.
I thought he was going to kick on. I thought, and Robbie seemed to give him chances early on, but he just played them all over the park. I don't think that helped Whiting, because he was played out on the wing again and up front. And no mistake, Whiting is a striker. He's a through the middle striker, and Dunfermline will do well with him in their team, and he'll score goals for them. And I'm delighted that he's got another club and landed on his feet.
Definitely.
I had Gary Mckay Stephen as well. Like we said, 17 games to score your first goal. Doesn't matter if you then go on and score 4 after it. He needs to improve, and the things towards the end of the season are that he is improving. But it's going to be interesting how he is next season, and we'll see how that goes. Ollie Lee was in my group as well. Again, like you say, and I think a big thing to say about a lot of the players, and not just the new players, but I mean, new players is one thing, but players that have lived up here but their families don't. Normally, that's absolutely fine. Like last year or the year before last, Ollie Lee can nip down south to see his family during the week, or when he's not playing on the weekend, down to see them on the weekend. But COVID times, you can't do that. Travel bans, restrictions, lockdowns. A lot of the new players, even the new players that have been brought in this season, like Nanduli, his family's not here because they couldn't come with him. Even Popescu is the same. A lot of the players that signed for Hearts this season have come in, and it's been difficult for them to settle because their families aren't here.
Of course,
so I think, like you said, I can't begrudge Ollie Lee wanting to go back down south. I thought he was a very good player for Hearts. I know he had a lot of people that didn't really rate him, and some that thought he was fantastic. There wasn't really a middle ground with Ollie Lee in terms of fan base. You either loved him or hated him, but I thought he was a good player. So yeah, when he left, it was like, okay, fair enough. I think McKenna filled that role anyway. I had Stephen Naismith as well. I think Stephen Naismith, for me, I put him in that category because whenever he was involved, the game seemed to slow down in the championship.
Yeah, no, true.
When you're playing against teams that are defending and throwing players in front of you to stop you from scoring, the last thing you want to do is slow a game down. You want to speed it up. You want to get it moving quicker. And Naismith just doesn't suit that. And it's not his fault. He's just older. Like he doesn't have the legs like he used to, and that is what it is. But yeah, I mean, we've already spoken about Naismith. If he stays, he stays. If he goes with my best, and we move on.
Absolutely.
I put my final player in the D group was, now I don't know if you mentioned him or not, but it was Craig Halkett.
I've not mentioned him, no. Which
that
from that.
I'll tell you why I've put him in that. And it's similar to the likes of Walker and a few other players that have kind of underperformed this season. And Craig Halkett is a Premier League centre back. He is. Like,
no, I agree.
He's not a quick centre back. Like, he's not pacey. He's not speedy. He's not that way. But he didn't do enough in the championship for me to be convinced that he will be an important player when we go back up again. And I think that, I mean, I was kind of floating between putting him in the D tier and the F tier, but I put him in the D tier because I don't think he'll go. I think he will stay at Hearts now. And I think we'll bring in another centre back at some point. But the lack of his speed worries me for next season.
Yeah.
You see players like, I mean, I don't like mentioning him, but he was practically invisible in the Scottish Cup final earlier on today. But Martin Boyle for Hibs, he's leaving hopefully at the end of the season for Hibs because I think he's got a buyout clause in his contract or something, so he might leave Hibs. But there's players that are pacey that will beat Halkett every day.
Yeah.
And Kevin Nisbet's another one, And I'm just saying Hibs players because literally it's just off the top of my head, but there are players at clubs in the top flight that are quick, and I don't know if Halkett's going to be able to handle that. And that does worry me, but it depends on the system. Obviously, we could go into that all day, but yeah, Halkett he didn't look like a Premier League player in the Championship, and that's why he's low down for me.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
That completes my D tier. So just to recap, I had Henderson, Whiten, Gary Mckay, Stephen, Ollie Lee, Stephen Naismith, and Craig Halkett.
As we go on to the last group, which is the F group, I'll just kind of continue from your sort of last pick there. Halkett, I put him in this group only like kind of based on the same thing that you just said there, Alan. Now, being in a team that's playing in the Championship, he should have done a lot. Was it the better? Now, throughout the 4 seasons that he's been with Hearts, or 3, I think it's 4. I think it's 3.
Yeah, 3 or 4. 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
I think it might be 4. Anyway, we'll look it up.
Sure. Now, I've said before that I think Halkett has so much potential, and I tipped him to maybe gradually over time to possibly be in a shout to even get the call up from Scotland. Honestly, I did. Well, I genuinely he almost seemed like that kind of player where, Hearts used to do it quite a lot back in the day, where if we got these players from smaller teams pretty much on a free transfer, and then we would make them something amazing, and then was it? And then that blah 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 blah. Hellcat's 3 or 4 the campaigns with Hearts have been fine. They've not been good or they've not been bad. They've been fine. But this one, it's kind of been a bit on the decline a bit. And, again, you just said there, it looks like he's not got a lot of, the pace in him. He's never really looked stable, whether it's been in a 2 at the back or a 3 at the back. In terms of a team for next season, yeah, I think he'll still be there, but I don't think he'll be a regular in the team throughout the time that he has been, which is a bit of a shame because I really wanted Hackett to do well. Honestly, I really, really, really did. A young Scottish centre back, Hearts have been known for countless young sort of centre backs that have then went on to be absolutely fantastic, but it's just not really happened for him. So that's why I've kind of put him in the last group in my list. To add to that, Ed Pescu, again, he's had an okay at the campaign. He's not been good or he's not been absolutely hopeless. Like, yeah, he's been hopeless for some games, but at the same time, like, he's been all right. He's not been anything special. Much like yourself, I don't think he'll be here next season. I mean, at best, he probably maybe like a third or fourth choice centre back, unless we do get somebody else in, which we probably will. So either way, if he goes, okay. If he stays, okay. Another few folk on my list. I don't need to go into detail about it. Elliott Freer, again, there's not much to say on that. He had a few games. He didn't play well. That's it. That. I've put Jordan Robertson there. Now it's a totally different story because he's actually done all right the times that he's played for Motherwell before he got injured, and he looked a totally different the player. But again, for my own sort of the personal view, I didn't see enough of that when he was playing for Hearts as well. So, I would kind of probably not want him to be part of the squad like for the next campaign because I think there's probably better options out there, and he just didn't show enough. Ross Cheesy fucking Stewart, again, I don't need to go into that. You know my views fine well. The whole of the Hearts podcast community knows your views on it, Alan, but again, we won't delve into that too much. And lastly, sadly, the saddest one out of them all, not for me, but you personally, Eddie White, again, fucking a lot of shite. I'm sorry. I know it sounds so harsh, but mate, literally the only thing that he done throughout his whole Hearts was the career was win that the penalty against Hibs in the semi-final, and mate, God bless his heart, seriously. But apart from that, he was total pish. I'm sorry.
He was. I'll openly admit it. We have our laughs. You have your holidays. I have my Eddie Whites, and yeah. I mean, what would you say? What did you say? My F category is exactly the same as yours, pretty much. Eddie White is in there, sadly. I never understood the Eddie White signing when we signed him. He's a player that I think was injured for like a year and a half before he joined Hearts. He barely kicked the ball for a year and a half, so it was a bizarre one. Stewart is in my F tier, just purely because he was in goal for the most embarrassing result in Hearts history. Not entirely his fault, in fairness.
No, but still.
That'll follow him around. I don't care if he's a nice guy in the dressing room or that, but yeah, I think the only thing that will change my opinion on him is that if he plays a few games next season and actually looks competent and solid, and then I might think, okay, fair enough. But at the moment, he's signed a new contract, so he's here next season. But yeah, exactly. Popescu, for me, Popescu's an F tier. For the pure and simple fact that he didn't look great. But what I will say, when he was going up, when we had corners, now this is a bugbear of mine, and not just for Hearts players, I mean in general. You see centre backs going up for corners when they're attacking a corner. And 9 times out of 10, if they're big, like most of the time, the centre backs are the biggest players in the team. They're beanpole, 6 foot plus, right? Comes with the position, comes with the territory. But Popescu, the number of corners that he went up for, and he won headers, and he sent them into the stand.
Aye,
like
true, but
the man's got a 50 PED, and it annoys me. I'm like, it's like if the ball just bounces off his head and just goes in the complete opposite direction of the goal. You're like, just aim your headers, man. Just put your fucking head through it and score a goal. Because if he did, like, I tell you, Popescu would have got a bloody ton of goals for Hearts if he learned how to header in a straight line. And it was the same when he was defending as well. The ball just seemed to bounce off him. It's like he didn't have any control of it. But again, yeah, just frustrating. I had Jordan Roberts as well. Didn't do enough at Hearts.
No.
Got shipped out to Motherwell and did all right for them. But I think if Motherwell want to keep him next season, they can. He'll probably go to Motherwell and do really well. But you know, it is what it is. Just a player that's not worked out for us. And the last one in my F tier was Elliott Freer. Again, for the simple reasons that you said. I want it noted as well, though, that 3 of my 5 in the F tier are new players that came in this season: Popescu, Roberts, and Freer. All coming from down south or abroad in the case of Popescu. So, like I said with Ollie Lee earlier on, players coming in to a new country, difficult to settle without your family. So I kind of cut them a bit of slack on that front, but they didn't do enough when they played for Hearts, and yeah, that's why they're in the F group for me.
And that's fair enough, mate. Well, before we wrap it up, I've just had a thought there. We've missed one player, and this player would actually go into my F group again. I've been a bit more harsh on him than you have. I know you've cut him a bit of slack just because of his age as well. Christoph Berra. Totally forgot. Well, I mean that probably explains why, but again, I mean, like I said, I know that I've been a bit more harsh on him than you, especially just from his comments, after the Borough game where this sort of result was it we could see was it at the coming. Well, in my view, if you can see that was it at the coming, why didn't you stand up and fucking say something, mate? You know what I mean? But at the end, he's what, 34, 35, I think, or is he
might even be older than that now.
Aye, I mean, he's got himself a 2-year deal at Wraith, probably going to be his last club. The Championship is probably his more appropriate sort of level just for the age that he's at. Yeah, he's just not done it for me personally throughout the last few years. So yeah, that's why he would probably go into my F group as well.
Yeah. I mean, Berra, I've said it about him when I spoke about him. I gave him the news when I mentioned the news the other day about him, the other week about him leaving. He was a servant to Hearts, and he came back at a time when we needed a leader. He did that. But yeah, the whole thing is that the same thing that happens to players when they get to that age. Their legs go, and Berra was never really a pacey player to begin with. So taking even more of that out of him is, it is what it is. But like you say, Championship is his level. Wish him all the best. And fair play to him, though. I mean, he's managed to get himself a 2-year deal. I'm not sure how he's done that, but
I don't know how he fucking done that as well, exactly. But yeah, I think that's the end of our list. Again, if we have missed anybody out, we do. I'd apologize for that, but I think just apart from Christoph, I don't think we've missed anybody out. So hopefully that'll be fine. Just as I'm talking right now, we will put the lists of our the ratings and the groups just for all of you to see. And if you do have an opinion on it, good or bad, if it is good, just throw them all my way. Bad, throw it to Alan. But that'll be fine on that. And we will also put a wee post about it on the Twitter page as well for you guys to get involved in as well. And we'd love to hear all your thoughts and responses to who you think was maybe the best player or the worst player of the season out of the squad, and who can maybe do a bit more to improve, or as equally who you want to see gone as well. But as always, guys, thank you very much for watching this episode of the Since I Was Young podcast, episode 8. As again, just to highlight, this is the last time we're going to talk about this horrid, wretched championship season, and for the future episodes, we're going to look forward on, and we'll talk about more about the Premiership campaign, and as equally as well, we'll do some more sort of non relative was it like the videos as well, because we're going to have to fill up the episodes in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. And if you do want to get in contact with us, you can get in contact with us in the comments, as always, on this video. But as equally, you can get in contact with us via our Twitter page. The link is in the description, as is Alan's personal Twitter account and my YouTube page. And if you did enjoy it, please smash that like button and please get subscribed. Alan, thank you very much for joining me as always, sir. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And I'll just point out as well that something's just popped up on my screen here.
Oh,
Sean
breaking news
Rooney.
again.
Sean Rooney is potentially my new favourite Scottish football top flight player outside of Hearts. Scores the winning goal against Hibs, and in his post-match interview says, "I'll be on the pints all summer."
Good lad.
What a man. What a man. What a man.
Oh my God. Well, on that note, anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Take care. Goodbye for now.